It's short and sweet.
Yes, welcome to the 7 o'clock talk. And we are going to talk about the hormones again. And if I can get it to show what it's supposed to show, then I can get everything up here. There we can find it. So we're going to talk about the hormones and how they relate to health. And I keep learning more and more and more about these because we started out and I just thought if you change people's diets, you get them a little stress relief, you get them meditating, you get them breathing, you get them praying, you get them out in the sun, you do all that stuff, and lo and behold, they're just going to get better. And Jessica brought it to my attention that people are not actually getting better, and it's because they get stuck. And my favorite analogy right now, especially with hormones, is that we are looking at, kind of think of it like a car that's been in a wreck. And when we think of a car that's been in a wreck, then we have to look at how do you repair the car to get it back on the road, and how badly damaged is the car. And when we're doing that, the first thing is the frame bent? And if the frame is bent, then what you have to do is, before it will ever start going straight down the road and doing what it's supposed to do, you have to straighten the frame. You can actually do all kinds of stuff to make the car run better. You can make it look better. You can do all of that kind of stuff, but you
I'm
can
have to go to the barn.
Yeah, go ahead. Let me grab this. We have company, so I guess I'm going solo. So with that being said, we have all kinds of people that, look all right. They do lots of exercise, and exercise is very forgiving. But if you over exercise, you also have an issue. And so as we look at this, I want you to pay attention to several things. Look at the stress response of the body. And what happens is, underlying, we can refer you to get you bioidentical hormones, which comes in on the backside and starts to give you the testosterone. We can give you testosterone, and that gets converted to your estrone and estradiol. But that's at the very end of the process. If you look at how this really happens, here you have your kidney with the adrenal gland. You bring in the cholesterol. The cholesterol goes to pregnenolone, and then you can start to have decisions. So this for those of you that don't know, this is why cholesterol is so important. And cholesterol has to be in the proper form, has to be in the proper shape, has to be in the proper size. And so you have to eat good cholesterol, because cholesterol then goes to pregnenolone. And then you can start to make decisions here. If everything's going great, part of it goes to progesterone, and part of it goes down to 17-hydroxypregnenolone. And as that happens, what happened there? And as that happens, I may have just lost my functionality. As that happens and we see this, well, shoot. We have to look at it. Oh, well, I guess. Hi, Kathy. So I will do this a different way. I don't know what happened here. And let me close that. Well, it's not going to do that. So I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to go to my photos. I'm going to go to hotels.com. Bear with me. Technical difficulties. So when we look at this and we look at how this progresses, your cholesterol has to be in a really good form, because cholesterol is what we take in, and then that becomes pregnenolone. Then, as long as everything is going well, you can go to progesterone, and part of it will go down to the 17-hydroxy pregnenolone. Then we keep going across, and as long as everything goes well, you go down to DHEA, dihydroxyepinandrosterone. Don't ask me to say that again. That's DHEA. These things continue to go across, and if you look, DHEA is 1, 2, 3 steps away. And then you have another 2 steps until you're to testosterone. And then you have to have another couple of steps to go into your estrogens. But what happens is if you start to get things that malfunction and you shunt things to aldosterone, and typically aldosterone is really hard to get a bad shift in, but if you do, you'll retain sodium and your blood pressure will go up. Typically what happens, almost did it again. When we look here, look at this stress response. You get increased glucose, increased fatty acids, increased amino acids, and immune suppression. And that's all with cortisol. And what is cortisol? Cortisol is the stress hormone. If you have cortisol happening, you shunt this. You can't go down to the testosterone. You don't get estradiol, or dihydrotestosterone. And for men, that dihydrotestosterone, I know there's somebody who actually knows how to say these words, and they're listening to me, and they are just having the time of their life at this redneck's pronunciations. But dihydrotestosterone is a very potent form of testosterone. And women have testosterone and men have testosterone, just like we both have estrogen. But if our testosterone is weak, the body will start to do DHT. And when it does DHT, that's what causes hair loss. So if the body gets into that stress response, then you start to kick out DHT, and that's why you see men and women losing hair. But do you see how the adrenals also affect all the hormones? And when you look at this bottom part right here, this adrenal medulla, oh, my picture's in the way. Let me get rid of that. The adrenal medulla, when we see phenylalanine, tyrosine, L-dopa, dopamine, norepi, vandamandelic acid, and epinephrine, those are your neurotransmitters. So the adrenals, if you've got the blues, it's not only the adrenals, but it's probably affecting your TSH and your thyroid and stuff like that. And so with that being said, you have to look at the adrenals. Like I said earlier, like I prefaced in the beginning of this, I used to think that if you took care of the breathing and the meditation, walking in nature and doing all that stuff, that the rest of the system would straighten itself out. I now know that that's not true. You have to test the adrenals, and you have to give the body the support it needs. At Integrated Health of Indiana, we're not about putting you on a bunch of supplements. What we want to do is do supplements to start to get you into that rhythm that the body should have. And then we want to take away the supplements and make sure that your body is still doing what it can do, because that's doing what it needs to do, because that's the whole idea. I don't like medications unless they're absolutely necessary, and I really don't like supplements unless they're absolutely necessary, just because what happens if all of the supplements and all the medications tomorrow go defunct? You're not going to have them, and you've lost your crutch. And I am not about crutches. Jessica is not about crutches. We want people to return to a happy, healthy, vibrant life. And adrenals, adrenal testing, these all go together. When we test the adrenals, we get to see what kind of stress people are in. Is it in a normal acute phase where cortisol and DHEA are both high, and then we look at that cortisol rhythm? Does it fall between the lines? Because the way they actually map that out, there's a high normal and a low normal, and then we get to see where the line maps out in those two. And if we have a problem with cortisol or DHEA, so stage 1 of adrenal fatigue is high cortisol, or acute stress is high cortisol and high DHEA. If we see that, fabulous. We will use the Hanselier method. We will start to get vitamin C in there, and we will go back to using pregnenolone. We will give the body what it needs to start to go down these pathways so that we get normal functioning, and we have normal cortisol, we have normal testosterone, normal estrone, normal hormones, and that's what we want to see. In stage 2 of adrenal fatigue, what we see happening is cortisol itself. Cortisol itself may be in that normal range, but we now see the DHEA, which, remember, is right down here. This is DHEA, and that comes in right through here, and that's what does the sex hormones. We see DHEA starting to tank because we're now in fatigue, and so DHEA drops. And so then you can't get to that end point of getting to the testosterone and then getting to the estrone, estradiol, and estritriol. And so we will help supplement the rhythm that you should have. And that's where we start to use things like not only DHEA and pregnenolone, we will also use stuff like licorice and phosphatidylserine, depending on if you're getting into phase 3, which is low cortisol and low DHEA, and people are just wiped out. Then we have to start looking at, okay, are the mitochondria okay? Do we need to have some PQQ? And the adrenal test won't tell us that. What tells us that is looking at the organic acids. And so if you don't see the proper organic acids in there, then we can start to help with that, with B vitamins and amino acids and doing those things. And all the while, we always want to start to supplement the body's fiber so that you get insoluble and soluble fiber. So you build up the bacteria, because if you build up the right kinds of bacteria, you produce your own endogenous B vitamins, and then you don't have to supplement them. You can actually have bacteria that produce B12, so you have more energy. And the more bacteria you have, the more mitochondria you have, the more cells you have. And it's just about overall health. And this is truly functional medicine, looking at how we can help the body while it heals. And that's what we're doing by looking at adrenal function, organic acids, and the GI map. So, well, Kathy, do you have any questions Family came over and they were getting some hay out of the barn, so Jessica bailed on me. But any questions? And this was a pretty heavy test. I mean, this is a heavy subject because it encompasses all areas of the body. And that's, once again, what functional medicine is all about. It's about all areas of the body, supporting every aspect of life and being so that you just feel good. Well, if we don't have any questions right now, you all have a wonderful evening, and I will see you next time.